Views and opinions expressed by hosts and guests on Patriots with Grit do not necessarily reflect those of Patriots with Grit LLC, its founders, and owners.
Get ready for truth bombs and guidance from conservative leaders and entrepreneurs from God-fearing, freedom-loving, truth-telling, patriotic Americans. Welcome to Patriots with Grit. Now let's jump into today's episode with your host, Darren Ross.
Thankfully, not too many people get shot, blown up, and fall in a hole, Randy.
Yeah, and then walk around with broken legs for 4 months, get a traumatic brain injury, have a stroke, and then break your back while working in a closet.
Ultimately ending up in a wheelchair. We're going to find out all about it on today's show with the Man of Steel. Here we go.
If you don't know by now, major cell phone carriers are monitoring your conversations and your text. They're even terminating service if they don't like what you say. Americans have had enough supporting these companies that hate our values. Are you tired of compromise? It's time to switch to Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider.
Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, giving you access to all three major networks, which means you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to without funding the left or the leftist agenda.
When you switch to Patriot Mobile, you support the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the sanctity of life, and our military, veterans, and first responder heroes.
One of the best parts about using Patriot Mobile is they have 100% of their customer service team based right here in the USA, which makes switching absolutely a breeze. You can keep your number, you can keep your phone, or you can even upgrade. Plus, their team will help you find the best plan for your needs. Just go to patriotmobile.com/grit or call 972-PATRIOT. Also, you get free activation when you use the offer code of GRIT. Join us and make the switch today.
Well, welcome to the show, Joshua Holm, the Man of Steel. We were recently referred to you by someone we just had on the show, Randy, Glenn Baker. And Glenn said, you guys have got to get Joshua on. His story is just an absolute story of motivation and encouragement. A lot of the shows we bring, Randy, are, they need brought to the world, but it's just so frustrating because it's negative stuff.
Yes,
and it's,
absolutely.
Whether it's COVID or elementary and secondary school stuff or
the injustice system.
And it needs brought to the surface, but it still has a negative flair. But today's show with you, Josh, is not going to be that way whatsoever. It's if people are feeling down, discouraged, frustrated, like they've lost their last friend or they lost their dog, what better time of the year to pull out a Tony Robbins moment than to have you on, Josh? You definitely are the Man of Steel. Talk to us a little bit about your story and how you got to be that way. And I don't think our viewers really can see you from the waist down, but I believe you are in a wheelchair, if I'm correct.
Yes, I'm in a wheelchair. I can't feel from basically mid-waist, mid-chest area. So I haven't always been in a wheelchair. And honestly, I see this wheelchair so much differently than how I used to. I used to see it as my prison, and I wrote about it in my second book, Life After the Fall. And the first book I wrote was actually physically because my wife said, "Babe, you got to find purpose through your pain." I had 2 brain hemorrhages and a stroke. I was wheelchair bound, and my wife had to do a lot of things for me. And so I began to have a little pity party, and I didn't really realize how bad it was, and I basically referred myself as a child because, in a way, because of some of the ailments, she did have to do extra things for me. My kids weren't in diapers yet, but Daddy was in diapers, and so then my son would he would go to town. He'd put on like a shelf hat, and he would run around the house saying, "Diaper Daddy, diaper Daddy, diaper Daddy," and so it became more of a running joke and thing. But one time, it was like enough. I didn't realize because a lot of times when you're dealing with families. Families are more resilient than what people, and I tell you, military families do not get the credit for their silent sacrifices, and it needs to be because I get thanked for my service, but my family doesn't get thanked for their sacrifice.
Right.
They sacrifice more because see, I went to combat, and so one of my old quotes that we've now kind of changed a little bit for our rancher that we're building is that individuals go to combat. Families go to war, but now what we changed that quote to is that individuals go to combat, communities go to war. Because a lot of times when you look at the core aspect, you see a family. There's so many people that might not be blood, but they're family. They're their neighbors, they're the friends, they're the pastors, they're a teacher, they're people that truly care. And my family was making so many sacrifices for me because of my injuries, and I couldn't see it. And it wasn't because I was selfish. It's because people focus on what you focus on. And I was focusing on my legs. I was focusing on the headaches that I had, this, that, and the other. And just because I wasn't crying and I wasn't having pity and everything like that, I was still, at the end of the day, I had a mask on. And then, I'd be one person outside the home, but yet eventually I didn't like what I saw. And if you don't like what you see when you look in the mirror, you're the only one that can change that. And so that's what happened, is I had a reflection moment. And so my wife literally put me in the corner and she said, babe, you need a timeout. I need a timeout. She was done. She was done. She called her mom. She was like, I can't do this. I didn't sign up for this. And that's when the God moments happen. And it's amazing because, like, literally I had a mirror beside our beside the couch where she put me. And because I had a stroke, my whole left side was paralyzed. And so I had to be sitting in, my hand was crippled like this, and my face was drooling. I'm down like this. And when she locked me in the wheelchair, I didn't have the strength to be able to unlock myself. I was stuck. I was stuck in that moment. And I remember to look at the mirror and I didn't like what I saw. So I looked away sharply. And then I remember hearing a voice, Joshua, what do you see? And I didn't like what I saw. So I looked away. I heard the same voice whisper back and say, Joshua, what do you see? And I looked, because it says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I looked at that mirror and I saw myself. And I said, I see a victim. And that voice whispered back to me and said, I see a victor. And so that's what broke me. And so I wrote 8 letters to God with these 2 fingers. On the right hand, that was all I had, was this finger. I called it twitch. And all it would do was just start shaking. And at first, my hand was like this. I didn't have the ability to open my hand. And still, I have limited motion in my hand here, just so everybody can see. But then, as the more and more you do things, you begin to learn new ways. See, we're very adaptive and resilient in nature. But the military taught me this. Suck it up, job on. Shoot, move, and communicate. Adapt and overcome. So then what I did is I focused on the one thing that I could do. And I took the one thing that I could do, and I took this hand I could work freely with and made it match the only thing I could do with this hand. Like chopsticks, learning how to play. I wrote 8 letters to God. It became my first book, Some of My Life Lessons, which is talking about turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones. And over the years, I wrote that book before walking. And it was very hard because I wrote this book, and next thing I know, I find that this book is like a blueprint, almost like a master plan that the Lord was, I call them God dots, putting all these little things back in my life. My philosophy came from writing the book. It's only 8 chapters, but it was written by two fingers. But it's inspired about getting hope back into people. And despite what happened. So my philosophy now is birthed from writing that book, which is reflect on the past, perfect the present, to protect the future. And the amazing thing about it is that you can't do it for anybody else. You have to do it for yourself.
Repeat that again, Josh.
Yeah. So my philosophy in life is to reflect on the past, perfect the present, to protect the future.
That's good fighting words right there.
Yeah, it is.
Really
so
good.
Let's take a step back and let's kind of set the stage for our viewers and tell your story about, the first set of injuries you got in the military and how that progressed to the point where you're at now.
Well, first of all, Josh, how old were you when you went into the military, when you enlisted?
17. Yeah. Yeah, I was 17. So I joined January of 01 before 9/11 hit. I graduated in May of 02. And then, but I was in an AGR unit, Active Guard Reserve, and then I got released from the AGR and went active duty because I wanted to have the benefits. When I got married, I graduated school one day and I got married the next. And we had my daughter was 6 months old when we got married. Me and Crystal, we were together 4.5 years before we got married, and so we've been together since I was 13. She was 15, and so we celebrated 22 years of marriage, 27 years of our relationship together. And if it wasn't upstairs and wasn't for the individual sacrifices that my wife and my children have done over the years, guys, that now I identify these things and now I cherish these. I call it cherishing your jewels. And sometimes your jewels have to be shaken a little bit to really realize what's valuable in you. A lot of people say, if I had less stress in my life, I'd be so much better. But if you talk to any expert, talk to any architect or engineer, ask them, what can you build without stress? They're going to laugh and give you a chuckle and say nothing. So stress is our friend. Stress holds us up. It doesn't keep us.
So you're 17, you enter the military. Did you go to Iraq immediately?
No, I didn't. So we were actually told we were going to Turkey. And I like to tell the story that, I told them I prefer beef and they shut the borders. But the truth of the matter is that yeah, it's funny. It's funny. And so this is right when Jessica Lynch and all that stuff happened, with all the stuff in Kuwait and all the stuff that happened. I'm sure you guys have heard of Jessica Lynch and her story of how she was taken captive and all that, whatever. So I was over there the exact same time. And so after doing a lot of observation, I realized what happened is we were trained and we were told we were going to Turkey. And then they said last minute, we're going to do a peacekeeping mission. We're going to be in Kuwait. So we flew on American Airlines, full battle rattle. We literally were in full uniform with guns, with everything. And because we flew commercially to be stealth when we went over there. We didn't go in military planes. So we were told we were going to be and so it was a crazy thing because we were still having scud attacks whenever I landed in Kuwait. And so when we first got to Kuwait, we were told we were going to be doing a peacekeeping mission. We'd be there for about 6 months and then come back home. We spent less than 6 days in Kuwait before we went to the surge of Iraq. And we're mechanized, so we're slow. And so all of our intelligence basically told us that everything pushing forward, all the roads are clear. No road was clear, not for us. We were the second wave of the first surge. See, it's very powerful to know the placement because when you're special operations, you basically get sent to a point and then you go for a specific mission and you're extracted, you're gone. There's no cleanup crew. So when special operations, they're going for a specific mission rather than when you're just in the core or in the fight itself. We're artillery, so what we're used to doing is we're literally used to being in the back of the back, and then we're support for them. Infantry's up front, then you have forward support, and then artillery is behind. And so they call us the king of the battlefield because we have the big guns, and they call us in for fire support whenever they're being tasked out or if they're being attacked or this, that, and the other. But it became so silly that literally all the vehicles that we were told were going to be good, that were trained for the desert, the MTVs and LMTVs, which is like a newer type 5-ton and stuff like that, they all fell apart. The radiators just shattered. I mean, they were not made for that heat, that intense heat. Because we trained in Fort Irwin, California, and so you might have 110 temperature over there, but when you have a heat index over 160, 180, well, and then too, at night, people don't realize it gets so cold in the desert at night that we literally had frostbite on our feet. And in a lot of us, especially with me, so in the military, they say either you can volunteer or be voluntold. And so I volunteered. And so back then, guys, I was 197 pounds. I was less than 6% body fat. I ran my 2 miles in 9:47. So when I joined the military, I had already had 4 years of JRTC behind my belt, and I was a pro athlete as far as my athletics. I played since I was 8. Like I said, told you guys earlier, I was the second youngest referee to be FIFA certified at 8 years old. I was doing Scholastic Cup, American Cup, and jamborees at age 11. I was refereeing U19 games, which is 19 and below, at 11 years old.
Oh, I bet. How did they accept that? I mean, you got people playing that are way older than you.
Well, see, I've always been one that has been the underdog, but I've always been one that has always had drive and kick, and I'm very stubborn. I mean, like I actually told Glenn Baker the other day, saying that God uses, God uses the largest asses to reach the largest masses, and it's so true. Because I mean, he does. I mean, he takes people like me that are so stubborn, that have been through life, that have been through abuse, that have been through traumas, that have been through bullying, that have martial arts experience. But yeah, I couldn't afford martial arts. My family didn't have a lot of money and everything. But I was one of the ones that I would go and train, and I would go clean up a studio. I'd do different things like that just to be. I couldn't afford a belt or anything like that, but I would watch videos of Bruce Lee doing, he's called Master Chia. He would do push-ups on 2 fingers. And then after I get back from Iraq, I never did these things because I mean I used to break dance. Now I break before I dance. So like I used to be a free break dancer. I used to be able to do backflips on skates. I used to run extremely fast, and I was very good at athletics. And so when I was in JRTC, that gave me the discipline. What made me join the military in the first place was I come from a lineage of military. My grandfather, he served in World War II. He was supposed to go to Normandy. He ended up going to Japan and building the railroad. He was an engineer. And so he was injured over there. He came back, and Mumu, we knew him as Mumu. He was a dairy farmer before electronic pasteurization. And Mumu, he was my hero, because when I got back from Iraq being hurt, I'll go back to the story here in a second, but I really feel I need to share this, because my grandfather, he was a man that he didn't speak much, but when he spoke, everybody listened because he had wisdom and insight. I remember him telling me life lessons, and that I didn't even understand really. But he basically he gave a metaphor of, like, he's like, so go to the fridge, you get a glass of milk. If you slip and you fall, you spilt the milk. He said, so what you need to do, first off, you need to clean it up so nobody else gets hurt. He said, then, well, you need to clean up so nobody gets hurt. He said, you also need to clean up because it stinks, and nobody needs that. It draws in stuff that you don't want. And then he said, then you go back to the source, either the cow or the fridge, and get another glass, and just don't fall again. He was teaching me life lessons, guys. He was teaching me gold nuggets. And then he told me communication keeps trust. That's why my marriage is the way it is now, because communication keeps trust. And so these are nuggets my grandfather gave me that I didn't realize the importance of what he told me. I remember him telling me when I got back from Iraq, he took me to his little office, and he had pictures of World War II. He was showing me documentary stuff that he didn't really share. He didn't talk about things, but he was telling me he got back, and he came back on a cargo ship, and he told me that he was eating sweet apples. Later on in life, after my grandfather passed away, I was talking to my aunt. She's a retired colonel, and I asked her. I said, Mumu was telling me about eating apples. She said, son, you realize he was on a cargo ship full of onions?
He was eating onions.
Yes, he was eating onions. What that means is that he was choosing to have a better way of looking at things than having a bitter way of living with them.
Wow, that's a heck of an analogy.
It is. And then so later on, I actually came up with a concept I call it layers of healing and layers of hurt. And if you take an onion and you literally physically take an onion and you take off the shell, you wash it really good, and if you begin to take it one layer at a time, the very first one that you take, it's going to have grit to it. It's going to have a lot of substance. It's going to taste like dirt, not hardly any flavor at all. But then you take the next layer, it's going to have a little bit more warmth to it. It's not hot, but it's a little warm. Then you get a few more layers back. Now it's hot. Now, most people discard the very center of the onion, but you know that it's the sweetest part. It's sweet.
I've always avoided it.
Life is like that. Is that my grandfather was telling me to focus on the good. Don't focus on the bad moments. So because of that, later on, as I'm reflecting back on everything else that happened, yes, I got hurt in Iraq. Yes, I came back. But people focus on what you focus on. And so, like, you're looking at me as a man sitting like you are. But this is the only way that I can be. I'm literally strapped to a wheelchair, and I'm confined to this wheelchair. And I used to see it as a prison. Now I see it as a aided device. See, crutches are to help you get back on your feet, not keep you off your feet. And a lot of times we use excuses to exempt out action. We can say, oh, well, I got hurt. Well, I got shot. I got blown up. Well, I've got a brain injury. I've had a stroke. I've had this. I could use all these different things to escape out. But what I've learned now, and this is what makes the man of steel the man of steel, is that I focus on the one thing in life I can do. I don't focus on the 99 things that life, depression, physical disease, and the demonic tells me I can't do. Focus on the one. See, change is not hard, but we got to be consistent and persistent that we're going to create the change we want to see. So one thing you got hear about me is you're going to hear me say a lot of words, and then I'm going to break down what these words mean because they're acronyms. But with my severe traumatic brain injury, that's how I remember things. I put it into an accordion file, A, B, C, all the way to Z. And then, so I document this and I put it there and I set aside and I go back. Like I'm a life coach, so I lift individuals for eternity. The word life. So the word change to me. So like I said, change is not hard, but you got to be what? Consistent and persistent that you get to create the atmosphere you walk, breathe, and live in. How you do it? Change one thing you can do every day. In 100 days, you are a whole nother person. So in 1 year, you can change yourself 3 times and take 65 days off. So I tell people, what's your excuse? So my definition of an excuse, it's an exemption of action. So if you X out what could take yourself out of action, whether it be a disease, whether it be an ailment, whether it be, a physical injury, whether it be abuse, even success. Some people, they're trapped by success. They do something well, they never will go beyond that because they're satisfied or they're afraid that it's going to take away because they might fail in the next action. So a lot of pro athletes, they'll get a ring, and a lot of them, they'll walk away with that ring.
Cardio miracle to me is hope in a glass. When you create nitric oxide, you are igniting the spark of life in the cell. It is the miracle molecule. That's why we call this cardio miracle, because of nitric oxide and what it can do for the whole body.
You ask and we listen. We're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
I got to go to Iraq in 2003. I was in the second wave of the first surge with 316FA, 4th Infantry Division. So I was part of the division that went and got Saddam and all the other threats that were over there. And so I was a mechanized unit. So we were artillery, but I was a gunner. And so I volunteered to be in a gunner position. And so I'd go from convoy to convoy to convoy. And one of the things we were doing was I was working 18 on, 6 hours off. So that was about 4.5 months. We did this, doing night raids. We did weapon caches. While performing house raids, I was injured. I was shot with armor on, and I ended up taking two solid slugs to my chest. The doctor showed me 2 to 5 more pounds of pressure would have broke my sternum, so my heart killed me instantly. I didn't realize the severity of my injuries at the time. I refused to go home, and so. And since it was an involuntary medevac, then I was able to stay in position. They gave me 3 days in infirmary and then sent me back out. And then I just went from one task force to another task force, and I volunteered. I didn't want to be. I was in a place that was very hot, meaning in the sense it was very, very, very hot. Meaning in the sense we were taking a lot of attacks. We took over 600 confirmed mortar rounds within a 4 to 6 month period. And so we got hit often. We got hit hard. I was in a place called Bakiba, Iraq. It was actually called Camp Warhorse, and it was like central Iraq. And so I tried to escape that place as much as I could. But like I said, June I ended up getting hurt, and then August 15th I'm running from a mortar attack, and my legs outrun my body, and I fall, and as I fall in a pea gravel. I'm covered in gravel. I get laceration in my face, neck, and chest. There's a 60 millimeter mortar that landed 3 feet in front of me. And if I wouldn't have fallen, that mortar would have hit me directly. And it cooked off. And at first, they thought it was a dud. as the EOD went to go put a ballistic shield and basically block it off, it went off. It just means that it wasn't my time, guys. But I didn't realize that. And so I was given 2 weeks of infirmary. And back then we didn't have public plumbing, so we had to burn our own waste. So I was a sergeant over a detail, and it was a crappy job. And literally, it's like burning.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, but it burns in layers. So like literally, it's like if you see tires, the way they burn, like that black soot smoke and everything. That's exactly what it is. So it gives off positions easy. So I didn't want to be a boy crying wolf. So I was on the very last day of my 2 week light duty, and I was over personnel, and I called her on the brigade net to cease the burning because I see all the black smoke, and I'm like, man, I mean, we're outside the point. And I began to hear thoop, thoop, like Pringle cannons popping. And I'm looking, and I can't see if I couldn't tell if it was incoming or outgoing rounds. And because we had mortars behind us, we're artillery, so we have a lot bigger shells, a lot bigger booms. But I've dealt with a lot of mortars before, so I kind of know what it's like. But these seemed like they were a little bit bigger. So I couldn't tell if we had what's called enemy close, which means we're shooting close to our position because we have somebody in that's very close to our position we need to take out. So if you do that, then you're going to have a blast pretty close to you. And I'm outside the gates. So the main compound is called Bakiba in Camp Warhorse. Later on became Camp Freedom 1. And then so I could not tell if we had more. So I sent one of my guys to go find out more intel from the TOC, the Tactical Operations Center. And since this is the first surge in Iraq, we didn't have all the alarms set up on the base and all that to say, hey, incoming, So I was out there, and I called on the brigade net. I had a big old field pack on, like a big radio pack, and I called to cease the burning, and they denied it. And so then I finally just made a command decision after I realized that I could not tell if it was incoming or outgoing. Something just didn't feel right. And I didn't want to be the boy crying wolf, but I told the guy with me, I said, hey, I want you to, because the other guy didn't come back. And so I was like, I want you to run, because he was a lot slower. Even though I was hurt, like I said, I was the second fastest runner in my whole battalion. I ran my 2 miles in 9:47 just jogging. I was presidential physical fitness many times over. I knew how to take care of my body. I was in good shape. And at the time, I was 197 pounds, big arms, big chest, 19-inch neck. I had less than 6% body fat. Yeah, I was a big guy back then. So when I realized that we were getting incoming, but I could not see the shrapnel coming towards us or anything at that. I knew we had a little position away from us. I made a command decision. I told him to run. I waited another 40 seconds to a minute, kind of counting in my head. Then I flipped over the crap and I took off running myself. And as I ran through the compound, I saw the first bunker, and I ran past it because I saw a lot of people on there. So I didn't know if the enemy had what's called eyes on, which they could physically see me jump into there. They could change the reflection of the round, and because all they're doing, they were just walking mortars into the camp, and they're just waiting for explosions, and to see if it's almost like playing Battleship. You know what I'm saying? Did I hit it? Do I sink it? So that's kind of what they were doing. They were walking mortars in. And when I realized what was going on, now I'm running, as I ran past the latrine, I remember hearing, like just like that, and I remember feeling felt like someone grabbed me here and just threw me over to my left, and I got peppered by a shrapnel on my right leg and on my arm, but I shouldn't be here. That round was an 82 millimeter mortar. It's a Russian munition. And it has a kill radius of over 75 meters, and I was less than 30 feet away.
So did it disable your arm and your leg at that point?
No, so adrenaline was too much, too fast. So literally, I remember feeling warmth, but I didn't realize that I had got hit. And I like I said, whenever I flipped over the stuff, I took off running because I knew that the enemy didn't have eyes on anymore, and then so that smoke was going to leave pretty quick. So they began. I remember hearing Pringle cans, doop, 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 doop. A lot more rounds coming. So then, when I realized that I was down, I got back up and I took off running. I remember seeing my bunker, and as I made it almost to my point of my bunker, I immediately began to run on my toes as fast as I could. I mean, I'm running as fast as I could to this bunker, And before I made it to the bunker, I fell into a hidden chamber called a spotter hole. It's a 10 to 12 foot chamber. And so I hit my head going down, and my lifeless body landed on my ankles, my knees, and my tailbone. So
In a hole.
make a long, yeah, in a big hole.
Yeah, okay.
10 to 12. Yeah. And I was knocked out. So my lifeless body, being knocked out cold, my body went directly on my ankle sideways, straight on my knees, and straight on my tailbone. And so I was pulled out of the hole. They did accountability formation. Some people were not there. I was one of the ones that were not there. So then they started doing for a search party, looking for people. And I remember seeing a hand kind of reach down to me. I couldn't reach; it was too far. And it was like, "Holm, is that you?" I was like, "Yeah, it's me." And it was Corporal Scott, really good friend of mine. And he helped pull me out of the hole, and he took me to the medics. But like I said, just 2 weeks before, I was injured. So then I still had pepper shotting on all that on my hands, my neck, my face, my chest. So when I went to them, they didn't really think much of it. They were like, "Oh, it's just Holm. He fell again, whatever." I didn't realize it was coping mechanism because I wasn't complaining, that they weren't seeing it as a serious injury. And then two, I've already refused to go home twice. So this third time, they didn't say. So I did what the military taught me to do: suck it up, drive on, shoot, move, and communicate, adapt, and overcome. And so for the next 4.5 months, I walked on broken legs, and I didn't realize it. My legs, they began to swell up. I began to have a lot of pain. But I mean, all they did back then was just give us Motrin, which is Army, it's called Ranger Candy or Skittles, and so I mean, it's 800 milligrams, it's like ibuprofen in a way, just Motrin. And I mean, if you broke a toenail, you got a broken leg, whatever, Motrin. That's all we got, Motrin. So we called it Ranger Candy, or Skittles. And so I mean, they give it to us for anything. And so so what I did is I had ace bandage, and I'd wrap my legs up, and I'd go, and I just wasn't complaining. And I got back from Iraq, and my body shut down. The adrenaline was finally ran out. They tried to administer a PT test. My legs were swollen. I went from I went from a size 9.5 boot to I was now like size 11 or 12. And I used to have high arches, and now I had no arch, and I just had extreme amount of pressure on my feet. And as I went to go administer a PT test, walking with a soft shoe profile, I fell out like on the walk. You're supposed to walk for 2 miles. I probably went 16, 20 feet. I don't know. But then because the adrenaline was finally done, it's like running out of gas, And so when this happened, I fell over, and then the guys picked me up, and I fell back over, and I said, "Guys, I can't walk." And they know one thing they knew about me, that I had a nickname. My nickname was Ice, because even though I was big and muscular and solid, whatever, I was cool about it. I didn't let my muscles go to my head. I was very humble about all this stuff. But I mean, everybody knew me. And Holm was willing to do whatever it took to. I mean, I went on my fire mission, even though my physical job was FDC, fire direction control. I'm supposed to be in a safe area, so like where you guys are now, looking at computers, giving coordinates for everybody to shoot and everything. But because of my size, and because of my gumption, and because of my drive, I worked directly with my battery commander. I worked directly with my gun line, and most of the time, if you're FDC, you're going to be in an air conditioned building. You're going to be in an ALOC or a tactical operations center, and you're working with a lot of more elite people. And then everybody else, if they're on the gun line, they're going to be down there pulling ammunition, going back and forth. And so I was one of the ones that was down there working with my gun line the entire time, even though I was headquarters. I mean, I could have been in an air conditioned building, but instead I want to be out there. Mission comes first.
Well, so I'm assuming you were discharged at this point, medically discharged.
Yeah. So what happened was I fell. So I got out in June 2005. So Warrior Transition Unit, or WTB, did not exist until 2006. So back then it was called Med Hold. They put everybody in one unit. So failure to adapt to military regulations, Fat Boy program, basically not being able to get yourself in shape, or physically being discharged, and medical people. They put us all in one mass unit, and it was called Med Hold. And so then what happened is they begin to give you crap duties. They begin to give you CQ duty, where you have to do 24-hour operations because it's the needs of the Army. And then some people are being reclassed. Like I was combat arms, so then they were going to reclass me if I stayed in. They were going to reclass me as logistics or administration. I could no longer be in combat arms because of physical injuries. And I was like, I've been combat arms all my life. I'm not gonna. This is what I'm doing. So then, make a long story short, I transitioned from the military, joined the ministry, and I went to the VA. And now I'm sitting at 100% disability.
Well, wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
That wasn't what put you in the wheelchair, was it?
Yeah. So I was in the wheelchair so I had a spinal injury. I didn't know that I had a spinal injury.
But you hurt your back at home too, right?
Yeah. Yes. So when I got back from home, I was when I fell out on the walk, the run, or whatever, I couldn't walk. And when they took me to Darnell, they put me in a half body cast.
Okay.
And so I was supposed to be in a wheelchair then, but my wife was 8.5 months pregnant with my son, Ethan. And so I had accountability formation. So I went home. My wife was 8.5 months pregnant and she was not feeling well. She was nauseous and stuff. So I took her home and I was going back on the base. And as I'm at a 4-way stop. Now, remember, I'm in a half body cast. I don't supposed to be in a wheelchair.
And this is back in the United States, Josh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is on Fort Hood. Yeah. And so, but because I wasn't out for leave, I had to go for accountability formation. Then I could go do the doctor appointment. But every time, because I'm a squad leader and stuff, you have responsibilities. So we lived off base. So my wife, I dropped her off, and then so I told you that they teach you how to be very adaptive. So what I did is, even though my legs were messed up, is I took my crutches and went all the way down, and I used it as a gas. I used it as a brake. That was my first hand control system. I drove like this and gas and brake. And so I was at a 4-way stop, and I was T-boning on my right side. As I began to go through, I was in a 95 Nissan Stanza, and the guy hit me was in a full-size Dodge Ram truck with a brush guard. Hit me going 47 miles an hour, T-boned me on my right side. My neck went out the window because my window was down. I didn't have air conditioning in the car. And my seatbelt didn't catch me right away. And when it did caught me, it pulled all the tendons and everything out of the shoulder. But it hit me so hard that the passenger seat broke and actually came at me. The baby seat that was in the back literally just left the vehicle. And so that was part of my traumatic brain injury, and part of the cervical injury that got worse was that car wreck. And so when I had my son, I was in a neck brace. It was pretty severe because when they took me, and the guy tried to do a hit and run, but then my battery commander actually physically saw it happen, and he went over and he stopped the guy from leaving. And the guy was trying to make it seem like it's my fault when I'm the one being hit on the side. He was late to work, and he was a contractor just trying to plow through.
So you had the brain injury, the neck injury. And then you were explaining to us that you felt your back snap at some point.
Yep. Okay, so in 2009, May 1st, 2009, I ended up having 2 brain hemorrhages and a stroke. My whole left side was paralyzed. I did not realize the severity of my injury. So I had a severe traumatic brain injury. I didn't know what a TBI was. I wasn't diagnosed in the service or anything for that. I had headache. I took concussion. I got blasted. But none of that was connected at first. When I first went to the VA, I went because my wife said, "Babe, you need help." You know what I'm saying? We need medical, this, that, and the other. I was a contractor. I mean, I did private security. I did all kinds of different things. So, I mean, like, when I got out of the military, I transitioned from the military, joined the ministry. And, like, when I was a contractor, I had leg braces on because my legs were weak. I had to have an ankle brace and all that on. But I wasn't focused on being a weakling. So I made myself kind of stand a little straighter, walk a little, more. I mean, it's almost like MMA fighter, you know what I'm saying, or a boxer, you know what I'm saying. The worst thing you can do is show your enemy or show your opponent that you're hurting. It's called a bandage. And so and so that's what happened. Is like I was just not. I was focused on what I need to do, guys. I mean, that's really was it. And I didn't realize the severity of my injury. I'm focused on my legs because I didn't know I had a brain injury. And then as my wife realized, and my mother-in-law realized pretty quickly, because I was having anger issues. I was forgetting things. I was getting scared in crowds, and my mother-in-law, she realized really quick, like, because in high school, I delivered pizza. I was a pizza delivery, and I was all over. We drove like within 30 miles and all that, whatever. And she asked me to go to Walmart for her after I got out of service, and I got lost. And she's like, "There's no way. It's one or two rights." You know what I'm saying? So she wrote a letter that kind of made me mad because I didn't understand it at first. But she basically said my son-in-law died in Iraq, and I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how patient of a man I was with my wife and my kids. And I didn't realize all the injuries that. So basically, what I deal with, guys, is called polytrauma. It's multiple injuries from multiple assaults and multiple things, but everything's service connected. And like I said, I had my first seizure in 2008, and then later on, like I said, in 2009, I had that full stroke, and that's when I wrote my first books on my life lessons. And from that point, 9 months after I wrote my book, I met Dave Reaver, my mentor, and I began to travel the country working with his foundation. And then later on, I realized that I wanted to start my own foundation. So that's why we started Still Hope. And so since then, I've written a couple books. But yeah, so since 2012 to 2022, for 10 years, I walked with KFO braces. And so they're called KFOs, which means knee, ankle, foot, orthopedic brace. It means the best leg brace. If you've ever seen Forrest Gump, pretty much that's what it is.
Okay.
But in each one of these braces weighed 11.5 pounds. And so then next thing you know, since I used to be an athlete, I thought about, well, what can I do now? And I had the injury, this and the other. So then somebody said, well, why don't you do a push-up with the weighted vest? And then I saw 22 Kilo. They did this thing where people were doing 22 push-ups. So I did that. And I was like, well, let me do it. So I didn't want to just do regular push-ups. I said, well, let me do this. I used to be able to hold a lot. I used to be able to do, because I remember back in the day, I used to do fingertip push-ups, over candles, you know what I'm saying? Just building resistance. We used to do a lot of martial arts and being break dance and all stuff like that, whatever. But I didn't know what I could do with the physical injuries. And so when I began to, a lot of people, they use crutches when they're using the KFO brace. I started getting so good at using the braces, and I used them every day, that I wasn't just wearing the brace once or twice a week. I'm wearing them every single day. And the way I look, and so I came up with this concept. I said, it's principle, but I said every day I strap on, I shut up, and I step out. And so the principle is strap on, find security outside yourself. Shut up. A lot of times we don't like to hear that word, but a lot of times things we need is also the things that we really don't want to hear, because we don't want to receive it. But pain is part of the process of your perfection. It's not the purpose. So pain is there for two reasons. It's there to show you something, and it's there to tell you. It's there to show you you're still alive, that you have breath, that you can still do things, right? And then also it's there to speak to you, because when you hurt yourself, when you overextend yourself, you start hyperextension, right? So that's just like breaking your knee, except for you're just dislocating things. And so pain is like that coal in an engine. You know what I'm saying? That the big boy locomotive has to have all this coal to keep it going. And if you open up the coal, you have no power. But if you shut up the coal, now you have power. And so as I said, you find security outside of self, and then you shut up, and you shut up your excuses. And then the very last thing, step out. Step out means get out of your comfort zone and help somebody, because you don't know the word that maybe that you're speaking that's piercing their heart. So you never know.
So
You never know.
So
Yep.
you okay? So you ended up in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
You
I
let's
bounced out
see.
of the wheelchair. Then, like I said, I bounced out of the wheelchair many times over. I call it the Tigger effect, because think about Tigger. Saying in Winnie the Pooh, he walks like everybody else, but he had this super strength. It was only on his tail. He would bounce on his tail. He'd bounce through the trees. I mean, he would leave everybody around. Well, that was pretty much me on my braces. I started doing things that people couldn't do on the braces. And so I began to look at different people, and people were like, well, what can you do without the brace? I said, well, let me see what I can do with the brace, because the brace is there to help me. It's not there to hinder me. And so then next thing you know, someone said, "Can you do a push up?" Yeah, I can do a push up. So then I took it to another level. So then I did a freestyle push up, which is on fingertips. Then I said, and I've always wanted to do the Bruce Lee push ups, and I remember doing it when I was in very good shape. I remember doing, one arm, this, and the other. But I'm like, can I do it with a broken back? Can I do it with a broken neck? Can I do it? Can I do it? I did it, guys.
Cool.
I didn't do it because I did it because I could.
Well, Josh, let's talk about what happened when you were doing a project or whatever, and you turned and you felt something pop in your back, and that was what caused you to be in a wheelchair today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I have not been able to feel from mid chest since December 21st, 2022. I literally was in a closet and I turned. I had a hand lotion in my hand. Helped my wife just organize, and as I turned, I heard a loud pop. Next thing you know, my hands went down and my lips were completely purple, and I fell over. I was life flighted up to with a spinal injury. I was life flighted up to Harris Hospital, a trauma 1 patient. The neurosurgeons they basically said it's like a strip screw. They said eventually it's like a rubber band. The more and more you twist it, eventually it's going to break, and so it could have happened at any given time. Thank God it didn't happen when I was doing any of my push-ups that I had done. And the good thing is we got video documentation of all that stuff. So my campaign 22 Healed and all the things that I've done. And that year, 2022, you can look up hashtag 22 Healed, guys. I did 22 push-ups on thumbs only for the 22 a day that was committing suicide. Thanks. And that was only 26. And so, but I did that, guys, because I cared. I did it because I could, and I did it because I was committed to see a change, which is centered, honestly, allowing new growth every day.
So talk to us a little bit about what you're doing today. And I know you're out of the military, and I'm assuming you're getting disability and everything. But what program are you doing today? And you said earlier in the program you're doing. You're currently a life coach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm an advocate. I'm a life coach. I'm a resilience coach. So basically, what I do is I help people overcome things. And one of the things I do is I basically tell people, hey, this is your tool belt. Let's find your tools. And so whether it be as a life coach, might be helping them to do something, maybe go to school, maybe an injury or anything like that. But I have my own foundation called Still Hope. We've been around for over 10 years. I've been in the ministry for over 20 years. And one of the things I do is I help people go through things, transition in life. We are very resilient in nature. And so I've learned how to adapt and overcome, shoot, movie, communicate, and basically just get to process things in life differently. So now I'm an advocate. I'm also I'm the very first hero for Eternal Crown. They just did a Everyday Hero campaign. I'm the very first hero, and I have a hero card that I get to pass on to the very next hero. And so that documentary should be being released here pretty soon. But the brand is called Eternal Crown, and they selected me as their very first hero.
Wow.
Then I have a ranch that I'm building here in Mineral Wells, Texas. It's a rural area outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so I have 9.5 acres as a healing ranch, and it's got a lot of work to be done, but it's like me. It's a work in progress. But I bought it for 3 reasons. Preserve the history, restore the value, and repurpose it for others. And how I met Glenn was actually I asked Glenn to be one of my speakers for a Unity Field event. I did. I put 500 American flags in a field with hero banners going down there shaped like a cross. And then I have a speaker come up there and basically share their story of hope and inspiration. And so I did this because I went and spoke at one. And a Gold Star mom, matter of fact, her son, Casey Joyce, was killed in Mogadishu, Somalia, in the movie Black Hawk Down. He's the gentleman who's physically. If you watch the movie, you watch the ranger that fell out of the helicopter, and then there's a guy running with him on a gurney, gets shot in the back. That was her son. I know the Gold Star mom very, very, very near and dear to my heart. And she said, Joshua, you might not have, you have the property, you have a field, put the flags in the field. And so she encouraged me to put together what we call Unity Field now. Unity is united, noble individuals together yearning. And so that's why I told you guys earlier that I for my quote for the ranch was individuals go to combat, families go to war. Now it's individuals go to combat, communities go to war. Communities is what's going to bring the village back together. There's so much division. There's so much, there's a lot of people don't understand veterans. A lot of people, we're not taught to be fearful, but everything is not a life or death situation when you get back. But when you're trained for combat and you go to basic training, and then you go to advanced training, and then you go to special operations and stuff, when you get back in society, there's no basic training to get back in life. Right. And so we become very fearful. And what happens, we begin to have we begin to put calluses in place. We begin to put isolation. I was one of the ones that did isolate myself. And I used to truly believe that isolation was my independence. Now I know it's like atrophy. Isolation is like desolation. It will destroy you. So even though I'm in a wheelchair now, and guys, I'm super active what I do. And so I'm also an advocate. So I'm finding new ways of doing things. I sit on the toilet different than how everybody else. I'm full catheter. So I make a joke about it that I have more plug-ins than Glade.
So tell us, Josh, where people can find you, your website, or to purchase your books and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah. So you look up my name, Joshua L. Holm, on Amazon. You can find three of our books. I wrote my first book, Some of My Life Lessons, where you're talking about turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones. I wrote that with 8 letters to God. 38 little pages of healing hope. Actually, for every book I sell, I give one away. And that's just how I do. And anybody who is going through anything, a depression, maybe you're going through a transition, maybe you just need some hope in your life. Any of your listeners, if you will send an email to joshua@stillhope.org and either send me book or a seed or hope or anything like that, whatever, guys, I will give you a free copy of that first book, a PDF copy. And I just want to inspire you to overcome. And if I can overcome, you can overcome. And that second book I wrote, that's more of a documentary. That's more of the service, a sacrifice, and everything I do as a foundation. And my mentor, Dave Reaver, he forwarded that book. It's called Life After the Fall. And so that first book, Some of My Life Lessons, the theme for that book is keep the fire burning. Basically, take the fire and learn how to burn within rather than burning without coal. Like shut the coal up, make it productive, have power. The second book, Life After the Fall, the theme for that book is falling is obvious, failure is optional. And so that's more of a detailed book. It's a lot bigger book. And then during COVID, me and my wife, we actually put together a devotional. And it's called Hebrews. And it's actually a 31-day devotion that we actually went and we put a coffee theme together. And that's a 31-day study of Hebrews. So we go through all the chapters and we have some bonus sections. So that but it's called Hebrews. It's an amazing little basically connecting with coffee and Christ. And then my wife, she also has a children's book. And so but I'm running. I always have a lot of things going on. I don't stop. I also have a kettle corn and lemonade business that we run through our foundation. It's like my Girl Scout cookies. And so I make hand squeezed lemonades and gourmet popcorn to die for. And so, I make everything from scratch. And I have a standing up wheelchair where it straps me up and I stand up and I'm able to stir all my popcorn and everything else. And guys, that keeps me active. You see, you don't get these for doing nothing.
I think those are a little bigger than yours, Randy.
Oh, mine are on the bottom.
So stillhope.org is where people can find you, Josh. And then
bananastill.com.
And then do you have any other social media platforms where people can follow you as well?
Facebook, Instagram. I need to get more on the X. I need to get more on the Rumble and all that. I'm in the process, guys. Right now, we are rebranding and we are refocusing everything we're doing with Still Hope towards the ranch, first responders. So just so everybody know, we are a human service organization, and we've been around for over 10 years. We're all volunteers. So every dime, every dollar that comes directly to our foundation goes out to our programs and services. And so now with the ranch, everything getting up and going, a little bit at a time, then we're going to be doing that. I also will be on the road with Glenn Baker because I am going to be the number one person that's going to be in the exoskeleton suit. And so I will be.
Yeah, he mentioned that, and I didn't want to bring that up without you bringing it up first, but that's a heck of a deal.
Absolutely. I'm very excited. It's an honor. I can tell you, it's going to be hard. It's going to be like being in the braces again because, like I said, those braces, I made the braces look easy and the braces made me look strong. Neither one was really happening. Right. It was a device helped me get me back on my feet. A lot of times people use crutches and they keep themselves off their feet because they're abusing it or they're not utilizing it properly. Most people that have a cane, they're not using a cane properly. So that's one of the things I do as an advocate as I work with disabilities. I'm also an anti-bullying aspect because I was bullied growing up and came from a lot of abuse and traumatic things that happened. And so I process that now. And so as an empowerment coach, one of the things I do as transitional life coach is I help people have empower. And so it's by MBS system, mind, body, and spirit empowerment. So I've written tons of programs. My foundation is also international. We have a Lagos, and we have a NGO in Lagos, Nigeria, in West Africa. It's been around for 11 years now, and it's amazing how we're just seeing amazing things come together, one step at a time.
Well, Josh, your perseverance is very encouraging.
Especially at a time like this, Randy, where everything's so polarizing in our nation.
I mean,
the last 4 or 5 years.
You can't let the little things bother you when you got people like Josh that have overcome so much, and we appreciate you coming on and telling that, and we will make sure we get all the graphics up to show where people can follow you, websites, all that stuff, and I'll probably even plug in a video or two here of you doing that workout.
Yeah, feel free.
Maybe he can inspire you to do a workout, Randy. I'd like to see Randy doing some fingertip push-ups. I mean,
break my thumbs
that would
off.
inspire some change in me if I saw that, Randy.
So I haven't found a way to do it yet in the chair. I'm looking at different devices. I hurt myself, so I'm being very cautious how I want to do it. But I still want to be able to do things. I mean, like I said, I drive, guys. I use a hand control vehicle. You can't keep me down. I mean, like I tell people all the time. Like, people are like, "Hey, Josh, what are you up to?" I said 3'8". I'm really 5'11". And I like to tell people that I'm a comedian. My wife says I'm a comedian. It's better to flush.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah. So
sometimes you just got to use that on Randy sometimes when he speaks up. So, Josh, thanks so much for coming on here and giving inspiration and just some motivation to our audience. I know we needed an episode like this about perseverance and persistence, and we just want to say thank you for doing this and thank you for being God-centered and just keeping family first. I know you've gone through a lot in your life, and a lot of people think, they lose their TikTok account. They think it's the end of the world, but that's what you've gone through is a little bit more than that. But we just want to say thank you so much for coming on Patriots with Grit and sharing your story, and we wish you the best in your foundation and all of your endeavors.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. I appreciate
you. Guys. Take care. See you on the next one. Take care. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Josh Holm. Next time you're down, discouraged, or depressed, just remember this ain't quite as bad as some other people have it. So what an encouragement and motivation. A lot of the acronyms he brought, Randy, just hit home.
Yeah,
so
he's been preparing a lot of them.
Absolutely. If you would, guys, go out there, like, follow, subscribe, and share on all of our different platforms, and give us a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts.
Be sure to hit that notification button so you're aware of a new show as it pops up. Go over and visit our Patriots with Grit partner store. Look at all of the Patriot vendors we have accumulated. There's a lot of stuff in there, and we think there's something for you.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Thanks for watching another exciting episode of Patriots with Grit. We want to keep you informed, so if you would, just go over to patriotswithgrit.com and give us your first name and your email so we can keep you up to date. Also, be sure to subscribe, like, and share so we can keep bringing you truth. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.